Hey everybody, welcome to apparently a gaming experience, if the Steam reviews are anything to be believed. This is Dagon. This came out on Steam on 24th of September. It is a game heavily inspired by Lovecraftian aspects because, it's Dagon. One of the, I believe, one of the Elder Gods. I've not read much Lovecraft stuff, but I've always intended to, and I thought, you know what? Let's check out this game. Apparently it's a visual novel, and apparently it's fairly short, but it's free at the moment, so, you might want to just check it out anyway. There are two DLCs, the Eldritch Box DLC, which I think costs £4 right now, and Little Glass Bottle DLC, it says not applicable for me, so I don't know if it's just free or what, but just letting you know there's some additional DLCs. I'm going completely blind, I have no idea what this is about. By the way, I should mention, developed and published by BitGolem. And honestly, they've been giving many updates on their Steam page, so they seem to be interacting pretty heavily with this game. And it has overwhelmingly positive reviews. So, this being Spooktober, we have to check it out. Dagon is a faithful, interactive adaptation of HP Lovecraft's work, focused on story and atmosphere. Okay, saying that it was influenced, probably too short. Completely focused, okay. You will not find difficult choices, action sequences, or inventory management here, and movement is limited to progressing through locations along with the plot.
I am writing this under an appreciable mental strain, since by tonight I shall be no more.
Oh god, I can move. I thought I was in a movie section. During the game, you'll encounter interactive elements. Some of them will allow you to continue your journey, others reveal interesting facts about the original short story, its historical background, and the author. Again, I've not read Dagon before. I've read the, is it called The Sunless Citadel? The short story of that, which was fantastic, by the way. And then other things happened, and I just never continued to read the stories, but something I really wanted to do. Some of the trivia is hidden. In order to find these secrets, focus your eyes and look for the Elder Sign. Okay, it looks like a leaf. And it's... I can't tell if it's highlighting the right trigger or the left trigger, but we'll find out. You can also access all the found facts later. They will be available in the main menu. I assume this is right click. Yes, it's right click.
Penniless.
Right click, then left click.
Supply of the drug which alone makes life endurable. I can bear the torture no longer, and shall cast myself from this garret window into the squalid street below.
So, do I have to find something else to look at now? No, I just click through that,
Do
okay.
not think from my slavery to morphine that I am a weakling or a degenerate.
Okay.
When you have read these hastily scrawled pages, you may guess, though never fully realize, why it is that I must have forgetfulness or death.
Right, I see the interactive elements. Aha, an Elder Sign. Achievement unlocked, the Seeker. Morphine entered into use in the 19th century and was routinely administered to treat severe pain during the American Civil War, 1861 to 1865, and World War I, 1914 to 1918. It was also sold without restrictions until 1914. Insane. Morphine became more popular after the invention of the hypodermic syringe around 1854. Friedrich Serturner, who first isolated the substance, originally named it morphium after Morpheus, the Greek god associated with dreams. Didn't know that. That's great knowledge. At the time when Dagon was published, morphine abuse, known as the soldier's disease, already posed a big problem in the United States.
It was in one of the most open and least frequented parts of the broad Pacific that the packet of which I was supercargo fell a victim to the German sea raider. The Great War was then at its very beginning, and the ocean forces of the Hun had not completely sunk to their later degradation.
Beautiful water, by the way.
So that our vessel was made a legitimate prize, whilst we of her crew were treated with all the fairness and consideration due us as naval prisoners.
Oh, I guess I'm looking for something. I see. The Huns. The Huns were Central Asian nomads who established a dominion in Europe and invaded the Roman Empire in the 5th century AD. They were known as brutal, deadly warriors and masters of quick raids who also developed powerful composite bows, lassos, and early siege weapons. During World War I, the British used the word Hun as a synonym for Germans, in order to emphasise their brutality. However, the term originated when the German Emperor Wilhelm II gave a speech to his troops on the 27th July 1900, before they embarked to China. "Should you encounter the enemy, he will be defeated. No quarter will be given. Prisoners will not be taken. Whoever falls into your hands is forfeited. Just as 1,000 years ago, the Huns under their king Attila made a name for themselves, one that even today makes them seem mighty in history and legend. May the name German be affirmed by you in such a way in China that no Chinese will ever again dare to look cross-eyed at a German." The refusal to take prisoners was a clear breach of the laws and customs of the war adopted during the First Hague Convention of 1899. No wonder everyone's on morphine.
So liberal, indeed, was the discipline of our captors that 5 days after we were taken, I managed to escape alone in a small boat with water and provisions for a good length of time.
Ah. Let's have a bit more of a look around. Okay, I only see this.
When I finally found myself adrift and free, I had but little idea of my surroundings.
Again, really lovely water. I don't know if people do this with games, especially with like games near water. I always inspect the water.
Never a competent navigator, I could only guess vaguely by the sun and stars that I was somewhat south of the equator.
Very pretty sky as well. Very pretty game so far.
The longitude, I knew nothing, and no island or coastline was in sight.
Okay, I can look at the moon. Any stars I can look at? North Star? Nope, okay.
The weather kept fair, and for uncounted days I drifted aimlessly beneath the scorching sun, waiting either for some passing ship or to be cast on the shores of some habitable land.
Okay. Oh, interesting. Oh, I did a full 360, never mind, not that interesting. Okay, I don't see anything in the sky. Alright.
But neither ship nor land appeared, and I began to despair in my solitude upon the heaving vastness of unbroken blue. The change happened whilst I slept.
Uh-oh.
Its details I shall never know. For my slumber, though troubled and dream-infested, was continuous.
Well, this looks less than ideal.
When at last I awoke, it was to discover myself half sucked into a slimy expanse of hellish black mire, which extended about me in monotonous undulations as far as I could see, and in which my boat lay grounded some distance away. Though one might well imagine that my first sensation would be of wonder at so prodigious and unexpected a transformation of scenery, I was in reality more horrified than astonished. For there was in the air, and in the rotting soil, a sinister quality which chilled me to the very core. The region was putrid with the carcasses of decaying fish, and of other, less describable things which I saw protruding from the nasty mud of the unending plain.
Getting Uzumaki vibes with the spiral shell.
Perhaps I should not hope to convey in mere words the unutterable hideousness that can dwell in absolute silence and barren immensity. There was nothing within hearing, and nothing in sight, save a vast reach of black slime. Yet the very completeness of the stillness and the homogeneity of the landscape oppressed me with a nauseating fear. The sun was blazing down from a sky which seemed to me almost black in its cloudless cruelty, as though reflecting the inky marsh beneath my feet.
We have to look for something. My boat? Any elder signs? Any elder signs around here? Nope. Okay.
As I crawled into the stranded boat, I realized that only one theory could explain my position. Through some unprecedented volcanic upheaval, a portion of the ocean floor must have been thrown to the surface, exposing regions for which innumerable millions of years had lain hidden under unfathomable watery depths.
I've just noticed this big thing over here that's making me a bit uncomfortable.
So great was the extent of the new land which had risen beneath me that I could not detect the faintest noise of the surging ocean, straining my ears as I might. Nor were there any seafowl to prey upon the dead things.
Looks pretty alive to me. Oh, a fish is dead there. Fair enough. Fair enough, game.
For several hours I sat thinking or brooding in the boat, which lay upon its side and afforded a slight shade as the sun moved across the heavens.
I don't know if it'd be sat here.
As the day progressed, the ground lost some of its stickiness and seemed likely to dry sufficiently for traveling purposes in a short time. That night I slept but little, and the next day I made for myself a pack containing food and water, preparatory to an overland journey in search of the vanished sea and possible rescue.
Stay away, you creepy hands. Okay.
On the third morning, I found the soil dry enough to walk upon with ease. The odor of the fish was maddening, but I was too much concerned with graver things to mind so slight an evil, and set out boldly for an unknown goal.
Aim for the horizon. Looks good to me.
All day I forged steadily westward, guided by a faraway hummock which rose higher than any other elevation on the rolling desert.
Interesting claw things. I don't know what I'd do in this situation. I'd be like running. I don't think I would have waited 3 days. Or crawling, or I don't know. Oh, a whale. Lovely.
That night I encamped, and on the following day still travelled toward the hummock, though that object seemed scarcely nearer than when I had first espied it.
Uh-oh. Yeah, it's not going to be inanimate, is it?
By the fourth evening, I attained the base of the mound, which turned out to be much higher than it had appeared from a distance. An intervening valley setting it out in sharper relief from the general surface. Too weary to ascend, I slept in the shadow of the hill. I know not why my dreams were so wild that night, but ere the waning and fantastically gibbous moon had risen far above the eastern plain.
Ooh, gibbous. Good word, don't know what it means.
I was awake in a cold perspiration, determined to sleep no more. Such visions as I had experienced were too much for me to endure again. And in the glow of the moon I saw how unwise I had been to travel by day. Without the glare of the parching sun, my journey would have cost me less energy. Indeed, I now felt quite able to perform the ascent which had deterred me at sunset. Picking up my pack, I started for the crest of the eminence.
Again, don't know if I'd be climbing at night, but apparently we are going. Oh, grab the pack. Oh.
I have said that the unbroken monotony of the rolling plain was a source of vague horror to me. But I think my horror was greater when I gained the summit of the mound and looked down the other side into an immeasurable pit or canyon, whose black recesses the moon had not yet soared high enough to illumine. I felt myself on the edge of the world, peering over the rim into a fathomless chaos of eternal night. Through my terror ran curious reminiscences of Paradise Lost, and of Satan's hideous climb through the unfashioned realms of darkness. As the moon climbed higher in the sky, I began to see that the slopes of the valley were not quite so perpendicular as I had imagined.
Ooh, we're climbing into the darkness then. Okay.
Ledges and outcroppings of rock afforded fairly easy footholds for a descent.
Descent into madness, I'm gonna guess.
Whilst after a drop of only a few hundred feet, the declivity became very gradual.
Okay.
Urged on by an impulse which I cannot definitely analyze, I scrambled with difficulty down the rocks and stood on the gentler slope beneath, gazing into the Stygian deeps, where no light had yet penetrated. All at once, my attention was captured by a vast and singular object on the opposite slope, which rose steeply about 100 yards ahead of me. An object that gleamed whitely in the newly bestowed rays of the ascending moon.
Walk towards it. Okay.
That it was merely a gigantic piece of stone, I soon assured myself.
It looks pretty chiseled to me.
But I was conscious of a distinct impression that its contour and position were not altogether the work of nature. A closer scrutiny filled me with sensations I cannot express. For despite its enormous magnitude, and its position in an abyss which had yawned at the bottom of the sea since the world was young, I perceived beyond a doubt that the strange object was a well-shaped monolith, whose massive bulk had known the workmanship and perhaps the worship of living and thinking creatures. Dazed and frightened, yet not without a certain thrill of the scientist's or archaeologist's delight, I examined my surroundings more closely. The moon, now near the zenith, shone weirdly and vividly above the towering steeps that hemmed in the chasm, and revealed the fact that a far-flung body of water flowed at the bottom, winding out of sight in both directions and almost lapping my feet as I stood on the slope. Across the chasm, the wavelets washed the base of the Cyclopean monolith, on whose surface I could now trace both inscriptions and crude sculptures.
Man, I'm just wrapped by this right now.
The writing was in a system of hieroglyphics unknown to me and unlike anything I'd ever seen in books.
I love the little turtley boy in the top right.
Consisting for the most part of conventionalized aquatic symbols such as fishes, eels, octopi, crustaceans, mollusks, whales, and the like.
I also like the pretty happy shark, bottom right.
Several characters obviously represented marine things which are unknown to the modern world, but whose decomposing forms I had observed on the ocean-risen plain. It was the pictorial carving, however, that did most to hold me spellbound.
Elder sign. Storytelling methods. Dagon contains many themes and storytelling methods that Lovecraft developed in his later works, such as telling the story through carvings of the Mountains of Madness and the Nameless City, journals and character notes, the Shadow of Time, the Haunter of the Dark, islands emerging from the ocean, the Call of Cthulhu, or fictional beings and deities based on real events and mythologies. Me Go in the Whisper in Darkness. Never heard of that one. It's also considered the origin of the popular Cthulhu mythos. Some of Lovecraft's other stories also conclude in a manner similar to Dagon, but let's skip the details in order not to spoil the ending.
Plainly visible across the intervening water, on account of their enormous size, were an array of bas-reliefs whose subjects would have excited the envy of a Doré. I think that these things were supposed to depict men, at least a certain sort of men. Though the creatures were shown disporting like fishes in the waters of some marine grotto.
This looks really cool.
Or paying homage at some monolithic shrine, which appeared to be under the waves as well.
It is this shrine.
Of their faces and forms I dare not speak in detail, for the mere remembrance makes me grow faint. Grotesque beyond the imagination of a Poe or a Bulwer. They were damnably human in general outline, despite webbed hands and feet, shockingly wide and flabby lips, glassy, bulging eyes, and other features less pleasant to recall. Curiously enough, they seem to have been chiseled badly out of proportion with their scenic background. For one of the creatures was shown in the act of killing a whale, represented as but little larger than himself. I remarked, as I say, their grotesqueness and strange size, but in a moment decided that they were merely the imaginary gods of some primitive fishing or seafaring tribe. Some tribe whose last descendant had perished eras before the first ancestor of the Piltdown or Neanderthal man was born. Awestruck at this unexpected glimpse into a past beyond the conception of the most daring anthropologist, I stood musing whilst the moon cast queer reflections on the silent channel before me. Then, suddenly, I saw it.
What?
With only a slight churning to mark its rise to the surface.
Okay, I see it.
Slid into view above the dark waters. Loathsome, it darted like a stupendous monster of nightmares to the monolith, about which it flung its gigantic scaly arms, while it bowed its hideous head and gave vent to certain measured sounds. I think I went mad then. Of my frantic ascent of the slope and cliff, and of my delirious journey back to the stranded boat, I remember little.
Ooh. Definitely feel like I'm going mad right now.
I believe I sang a great deal and laughed oddly when I was unable to sing. I have indistinct recollections of a great storm sometime after I reached the boat.
That's going to make things sticky again.
At any rate, I know that I heard pearls of thunder and other tones which nature utters only in her wildest moods. When I came out of the shadows, I was in a San Francisco hospital, brought thither by the captain of the American ship which had picked up my boat in mid-ocean. In my delirium, I had said much, but found that my words had been given scant attention. Of any land upheaval in the Pacific, my rescuers knew nothing. Nor did I deem it necessary to insist upon a thing which I knew they could not believe.
The journalist. Lovecraft was a prominent figure in the world of amateur journalism. In 1915 he started publishing his own journal called The Conservative, which included political and social commentary, poetry, short stories, and literary criticism written by him and other authors. Howard was a skilled wordsmith, but he also took criticism to heart, which resulted in his decision to step away from writing poetry and concentrate on weird fiction again, for the first time since his teenage years. Dagon, published in 1917, is one of the short stories written during that period. In this excerpt from The Conservative, the master of horror fiction explains his attitude toward warfare and the idea of world peace. Why, any sane human being can believe in the possibility of universal peace is more than a conservative can fathom. Should the entire civilized world agree simultaneously to disarm, one or more nations would undoubtedly retain secret armaments and at the proper time take advantage of their more altruistic and less astute contemporaries in a wild career of conquest against unarmed victims. No country is, or ever can be, above warfare, until the basic impulses of the human animal shall have miraculously changed. Probably true. You know? Doesn't feel any closer to world peace, but world war feels closer than ever. There was an elder symbol there, I missed one. Below the cross.
Once I sought out a celebrated ethnologist and amused him with peculiar questions regarding the ancient Philistine legend of Dagon, the fish god.
Ooh. Dagon, or Dagon, was the main deity of the Philistines, worshipped throughout the Middle East as the ancient god of fertility and crops. In Hebrew, the word Dagon was a common noun for grain. The rulers of Akkad, Mesopotamia, chose him as the patron saint of their war conquests. He also appeared as the judge of the dead in an Assyrian poem and an underworld prison warder in one of the Babylonian texts. Sorry, I thought there was an end of sentence there. He is often mistakenly taken for a fish god due to the wrong interpretation of his name, as in Hebrew the word dag means fish. In HP Lovecraft's work, Dagon is an underwater deity ruling over the deep ones, a humanoid race with fish traits that resides in the oceans. He is worshipped by a secret cult called the Esoteric Order of Dagon. Interesting. Right, let's be a bit more observant this time, because I missed an elder symbol, I think, last time. That being said, I think I've got everything. Yep, okay.
But soon perceiving that he was hopelessly conventional, I did not press my inquiries.
I see the Necronomicon. Oh, I also see that. The Marketer. Lovecraft's attempts to find a job in 1925 were influenced by advice he received from friends. Among others, he started freelancing for a marketing magazine where he would write announcements and commercials. Feel free to judge his copywriting skills for yourself. From an ad for Curtis Woodwork. Curtis Woodwork embraces both the usual structural unit and the cleverest contrivances of built-in or permanent furniture, such as bookcases, dressers, buffets, and cupboards. Every model is conceived and created with the purest art, ripest scholarship, and mellowest craftsmanship which energetic enterprise can command, and made to conform rigidly to the architecture of each particular type of home. The cost, considering the quality, is amazingly low, and a trademark on the individual pieces prevents any substitution by careless contractors. Source: Lovecraft Studies, Volume 7, Number 1, HP Lovecraft, St. Joshi. August Derleth and the Cthulhu Mythos. August Derleth? August Derleth. I'm going to go with Derleth, actually. August Derleth was an American writer and anthologist. He also believed Lovecraft and published many of his works through his company, Arkham House. Although he greatly contributed to the popularization of the author's works after his death, he is surrounded by numerous controversies. One of the most questionable decisions involved in introducing the good versus evil doctrine, DERLETH was a devout Catholic, to the Cthulhu mythos, which contrasted to Lovecraft's view of the world and his approach to cosmic horror. As a result, the author's works are often misunderstood and misinterpreted in today's culture. It is also worth noting that Lovecraft was never really interested in creating a mythology, and the term Cthulhu mythos was coined by DERLETH after the author left the mortal plane. Okay. Oh, I'm going back over here. So there are some things I don't see unless I was zoomed in. Okay. I see how I made the mistake now. Okay. What are we looking at here? So I can go straight to the door, but surely I came over here for a reason. Okay. Apologies if I'm missing something, but I don't see anything over there. Just pacing around the office, I suppose.
It is at night, especially when the moon is gibbous and waning, that I see the thing. I tried morphine, but the drug has given only transient surcease, and has drawn me into its clutches as a hopeless slave. So now, I am to end it all, having written a full account for the information or the contemptuous amusement of my fellow men.
Lovecraft and tobacco and alcohol. Lovecraft hated tobacco, even though he used to smoke when he was 12, in order to look and feel like an adult. In his correspondence with friend Reinhard Kleiner, he claims that he quit as soon as he started wearing long pants. He also had a very strong opinion about alcohol, as evidenced by his letter to Zelia Brown, dated 13th February 1928. As for the matter of drinking, I have never tasted intoxication liquor, and never intend to, having a strong aesthetic disgust at anything which blunts or coerces the delicate natural equipoise of the evolved human intellect and imagination. Drinking excites my personal repugnance, hence I don't drink. Let the herd do what they will. I am rather in favour of prohibition. The prohibition of any one antisocial force as well as of any other. Source: The Spirit of Revision, Lovecraft letter to Zelia Brown, Reed Bishop. What a name, Zelia Brown, Reed Bishop. HP Lovecraft, Sean Brannery, and Andrew Lemon, St. Joshi. Oh, Andrew Lemon and St. Joshi, okay. Okay, morphine me up, baby.
Often, I ask myself if it could not all have been a pure phantasm. A mere freak of fever, as I lay sun-stricken and raving in the open boat, after my escape from the German man-of-war. This I ask myself, but ever does there come before me a hideously vivid vision in reply. I cannot think of the deep sea without shuddering at the nameless things that may at this very moment be crawling and floundering on its slimy bed, worshipping their ancient stone idols and carving their own detestable likenesses on submarine obelisks of water-soaked granite. I dream of a day when they may rise above the billows to drag down into their reeking talons the remnants of puny, war-exhausted mankind. Of a day when the land shall sink and the dark ocean shall ascend amidst universal pandemonium. The end is near. I hear a noise at the door, as of some immense slippery body lumbering against it.
More morphine, please? We have to go to the door.
It shall not find me. God, that hand. The window. The window.
Wow, that was incredible. We hope you enjoyed immersing yourself in our little pool of cosmic horror. We'd appreciate if you took a moment to rate Dagon and check out our other games and DLCs. Eldritch Box DLC and Little Glass Bottle DLC. What a fantastic little experience. You know what? I'd urge people to check out the Eldritch Box DLC and the Little Glass Bottle DLC. This was fantastic. As I said, it's free on Steam. Eldritch Box, I believe, does cost £4. I'm not sure about Little Glass Bottle. It says NA for me, so it might be free. But I love that. If you also enjoyed it, leave a like, comment and subscribe, and go and check it out yourself on Steam. As I said, it's free. You can see the things I missed, because inevitably I've missed things. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.